All right, grade 8. So here's our first lesson on adding fractions. If you haven't watched it already, you should go to the lesson that I have on important fraction skills. There are 3 important fraction skills you should know before you move on. So when you're adding fractions, you can see the general idea is if the denominators are the same, it's very simple. You keep the denominator and you add the numerator. However, often in fraction, the denominators are different. So if they are different, what you do is find what's called the lowest common denominator. You change the numerator and then you add like you did up here. So you keep the same denominator and you add the numerator. Sounds a little confusing, but you'll understand once we go through some examples. So here's some examples of fractions that are like, meaning that notice that they both have the same denominator. They have the same bottom number. When you find fractions like that and you're adding them, very, very simple, because you keep the same bottom number and you simply just add the 2 top numerators. So 1 plus 2 is 3. Final answer. Can't get easier than that. In this case, we have 2 bottom numbers that are the same. So it's a 10. We keep the 10. We add the 2 numerators, 8 over 10. That is not the final answer. If you watch the previous important fraction skill, you always reduce your fractions. So we have to divide these both by 4, meaning that the fraction is, not by 4, by 2. Pardon me. So divide these numbers both by 2 because you have to ask what number divides both. So 2 will divide both. So it becomes 8 divided by 2 is 4 and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the answer is 4/5. All right, next one, we have a 9/16 and a 9/16 added together, same bottom number. Now we add the 2 top numbers, 9 and 9 is 18. Now, this is what's called an improper fraction. For another important skill, if you have an improper fraction, we have to make it into a mixed number. And how we do that, watch a previous lesson, you'll see, we ask how many times does 16 go into 18? So it only goes in 1 time. There's a remainder of 2 that goes on the top and you keep the same bottom number. So it's 1 and 2/16. Now what you do is we have to reduce this fraction. We divide both of these numbers by 2. So you get 1 whole still, and 2 divided 2 is 1, 16 divided 2 is 8. So the answer is 1 and 1/8. Okay, over here we have 2 and 7/8 plus 5 and 2/8. So 2 and 5 get added together. We have 7. Now we add the fraction parts, 7/8 and 7 and 2/8, sorry. Keep the same 8 and you add the 7 and 2, you get 9. So we have 7 and 9/8. However, we have an issue, and that is that the 9/8 is an improper fraction. So we have to make this, ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 9? So that is 1 whole and remainder of 1 on top, keep the 8. So this 9/8 as a mixed number is 1 and 1/8. So now what we do is we add the 7 whole plus the 1 and 1/8. So 7 and 1 is 8 whole and we have the remainder 1/8. So 7 and 9/8 is really 8 and 1/8 because there is a whole number in here. So we got 8 and 1/8. All right. Now, that's adding fractions with the same bottom number. Now we're going to add fractions that are unlike, meaning that the bottom numbers are different. This is a little bit trickier. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we find what's called a common denominator. That means we ask ourselves this question, and I'll just write it down for the first one. So what number do both 3 and 4 go into? That's the question that we ask. What number do both 3 and 4 go into? And so 3 and 4 both go into 12. So what we do is we change them both to 12s. So I will make a new bottom number underneath this fraction, make a new bottom number underneath this fraction, and I'm going to add 2 fractions with the same bottom number of 12. So 3 goes into 12 4 times, right? So that means 3 times 4 is 12. So whatever I do there to this bottom number, if I change it to a 12 and I multiply it by 4, I have to do the same to the top number. So 2 times 4 is 8, and that's what goes up there. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 4 times 3 is 12. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 3 times 3 is 9. Now, it's just like adding the fractions that we say are like. Same bottom number, keep the same bottom number, add the numerators, 8 plus 9, that's 17. And of course, this is improper. So we ask how many 12s go into 17? 1. Remainder 5, keep the same 12. Final answer, 1 and 5/12. All right, this one right here, we have a 4 and a 5. We ask, what number do both 4 and 5 go into? And they both go into 20. So we change them both to 20s on the bottom, and we're going to convert them to 20th. So 4 goes into 25 times, right? So it's 4 times 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. 5 goes into 24 times. So 5 times 4 is 20. So 4 times 4 is 16. That goes here. Now we add these two fractions. Keep the 20 on the bottom. Add the 5 and the 16. You get 21. And this is slightly improper. So we ask how many 20s go into 21? 1. What's the remainder? Only 1. Keep the same 20. So the answer, 1 and 1 over 20. Okay, we have some mixed numbers here. No different. So we have the whole numbers we kind of ignore. We look at just the fractions. So we have a 6 and a 4. So I'm going to change them to what number do both 6 and 4 go into? Some students will think 24, which is true, and it will work. However, it's a lot easier if you find the lowest common denominator, so that would be 12. Both numbers go into 12. So 6 goes into 12 twice, so it's times 2. 6 times 2 is 12, so 5 times 2 is 10. 4 goes into 12 3 times, so 4 times 3 is 12, so 3 times 3 is 9. Now that we have two fractions that are the same bottom number, now we first, don't forget we have whole numbers, so we add the whole number. 1 plus 5 is 6 whole, and the 12s, we keep the same 12, and we add the 10 and the 9, 19. All right, so just in the previous example here too, we have, this is improper, so we have to change this to a mixed number. So how many 12s go into 19? 1. Remainder 7. 12 stays on the bottom. Now we combine the 6 whole with this 1 whole. So now we have 7 whole and the remaining 7 12s. So the answer, 7 and 7 12s. Right, final example. We have a mixed number, 4 and a third, added to just a proper fraction, 1/6. So we kind of ignore the 4 whole and we look at just the fraction. We have a 3 and a 6. So I want to ask the question, what number do both 3 and 6 go into? Well, 3 and 6, yes, they go into 12, and yes, they go into 18, but in fact, the smallest number, the lowest common number, is 6. They both go into 6. 6 goes into 6 once, so this fraction is already a sixth. We don't even have to change it. The only one we have to change is this one. So we will write this one as a 6. So 3 goes into 6 twice, so it's times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So really what I'm adding is 4 and 2 over 6 plus 1 over 6. So I still have my 4 whole. Now I add my 2 6 to my 1 6. Keep the same bottom number, add the 2 top. 2 and 1 is 3. So 4 and 3 over 6. This is not final because these numbers both divide by 3. So you get 4 whole and 1/2. That is the final answer, and that is how you add fractions. And that was a very quick lesson, so please rewind it if I went too fast, and I hope that helps.